to the NASM CT Podcast with Richey, official podcast of the National Academy of Medicine.
Colleague of mine, somebody that works at the National Academy of Sports Medicine with me, and I'm excited to have him on because we did some traveling together, and it's one of the things I want to talk about is the expansion that NASM is going through and what some of that international expansion looks like. So welcome into the show, Nathan Hyland. Nate, what's up, brother? How you doing today?
Thanks so much for having me. I'm doing great, and yeah, what the difference a year makes, huh? Last summer, we were in Shanghai doing a podcast, and things were quite different than current landscape.
They definitely are quite a bit different, and I got to tell you, we had a good podcast when we were together in Shanghai. We had a lot of people on the podcast, including Ken Miller, who was on the show just recently, and so I'm looking forward to having you on because one of the things that was interesting to me is the kind of expansion that's been going on through that NASM has been going through. And it's something that wasn't really a strong push initially. And then suddenly we're there. I'm wondering if you're going to be joining me after we leave China to go to another location. And I think that was Thailand or Korea. And then you were like, no, I've got to go to Turkey or Germany or something. I mean, you're all over the place. So tell us a little bit about your job, what it is that you do for NASM. And then let's talk about a couple of things, the expansion that NASM is going through and what are some of these other countries and these within the industry. What do they like about NASM that's drawing them in? And then secondly, we'll get into discussing what they're doing and how they're handling the COVID crisis.
Yeah, absolutely. All really dynamic stuff going on right now. Things are happening, minute to minute that are ever changing within the organization as it relates to international expansion. To answer your first question, I've been with NASM for the past over 8 years now. I think getting close to 9 years. Of course, our organization NASM has been around since 1987. Year after I was born. So, I've just been a small window of the overall enterprise that is NASM. But to your point, we really didn't have an official international department until about 2014. So we're really operating off of about 6 years of meaningful expansion beyond the United States and Canada. So it's still all very, very new. Even though NASM is a well-established organization, we're the biggest in the space. Obviously, we have the biggest market share. It's fun. It feels like a startup within a big organization.
Yeah.
Of course, have our challenges. Things shift, but you kind of hit the nail on the head. The demand for what we're doing here within our organization, kind of taking the best practices from the U.S. and plugging that into the other 45 countries that we're in, it's never been more in demand than it is now. So that's the exciting part. Certainly tons of challenges. I think I've added maybe 6, 7, 8 gray hairs to my head, since February of this year. But it's we're making the best of it. We have super resilient partnerships, which I'm sure we'll talk more about. You've met a lot of our partners and have been a piece of training their trainers. So it's, hey, look, I know it's tough, especially in certain areas, but there's some exciting things happening too.
So talk me through what it is that you think's going on. I mean, the expansion's real. The expansion's taking place, certainly slowed down as of this moment, but why do the international markets, why are they starting to gravitate so much to NASM? Because there are other brands that were here in the States that have expanded far before we did into these countries. So what is it about NASM that's allowing that market share to be taking place through 45 countries? I had no idea it was that many. So how is that working? What do they like about it?
So even let's talk pre-COVID. So pre-COVID, NASM was still in a meaningful way in more countries, certifying more personal trainers globally than any other organization. That's pre-COVID. Post-COVID, because now there's so much reliance on digital education, virtual training, and hey, we do live education, better than anybody. I believe, yourself included. We have the best
Thank you.
instructor team, bar none, in the industry. But when you're talking about scalability and reaching more people to receive our education, you got to do it digitally. You got to do it virtually. And then, of course, when you can head to Optima, when you can do a live event through one of our partners, when you can do one of our over 200 workshops here in the US that we typically have when live events are happening, you do the blended. You want to have the live with of course, the digital education. So to answer your question, the latter half of kind of post-COVID, the demand is there because we can give them all the tools that they need to plug it into what they're doing. In other words, they can take our exam, they can take our content, and they can have their people study at home while they're in isolation, not able to go out. So that's really been a big source of the uptick, kind of following this quarantine time, if you will.
For sure. It's worked for me. I've signed up for several NASM courses since the COVID happened. And
what else do you do, right?
Yeah. It's been wonderful to be able to have some. First of all, it's been kind of cool to have a little sabbatical, but that got old after a week or two. And then after that, it's like, hey, man, I've got to do something. I need to stay on top of things. I can get some additional credentials behind my name. I can update my education. I can live it. I can walk that walk that I tell people. I'm a lifelong learner. I'm not here just to get a certification, show you the paper, get a pay rate increase, and then flush everything that went into my studies. That's not me. That's not how I do it. So it's been good in that aspect where I can start taking in some stuff and absorbing that. I know you're doing the same thing too. And on a personal level, you're taking digital classes from people. You've hired digital trainers. Talk us through what that's been like for you.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, there's a ton of new content that NASM's putting out. Just recently finished the CNC, which was awesome.
Yeah.
Nutrition coach, amazing course. Simply beautifully done, start to finish, loved it. We came out with the virtual coaching, which our friend Kierden, McMahon helped together, which has been very well received in this time when, hey, people still want to interact with their trainer. If they can't do that, you can use a virtual medium. So that's been fun to go through. We just launched that. But outside of NASM education, there's some really cool stuff. Our friend Nathan Helberg, who's been a part of our NASM Master Instructor trainings, he's been
Zoo.
Zoo. He's been putting out some fire, some really, really good stuff. So been training with him, doing some of his education. It's been a blast. And then a mutual friend of ours, Sarah, I call her the kettlebell queen. Training.
Yeah, that's the right number for her. That's the correct one.
Yeah, she's been kicking my butt in the morning, just giving me blisters all over my hands. Kettlebell. So it's you really have to. You're going to take one of two mindsets during this time, right? You're either going to feel bad for yourself, which I would be lying if I said I haven't done several times, especially in the beginning, being stuck at home, away from my teammates, away from my colleagues at work. So you either stay there or you can make the best of it. And I think plugging in, doing education, finding things you're passionate about, you've been meaning to do, it's a time to do it. And there's really no excuse, right? We have all the time in the world. So that's been something I've been trying to do. Just check some education off the list I've been meaning to go through, reinvest into myself, both through NASM education and other good content that's out there.
Yeah, well, that I love this because honestly, when we start working together to learn more, to study more, NASM has not stopped producing content. And that's one of the things where people can kind of fall back is instead of saying, hey, we're in a place where everybody is off. NASM didn't take the day off. NASM did not take COVID off. They've been producing content. I love that they came out with the virtual trainer course, and our friend Carradine has done an incredible job helping to put that together and being a subject matter expert. So are these things reaching into multiple locations? So I know that here in the US, we've launched those things. Are any of these things going into some of these other locations internationally?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Rick. I do want to give a shout out to the people on the back end, Greg Esposito and his team. The marketing, the social media, it's been brilliant. I mean, like, I can't believe like not only the quality but the quantity that we're churning out right now. It's really cool to see. Even trying to be as objective as possible, because I obviously wear the NASM colors proudly. We're doing some cool stuff between leveraging our master instructor team, our product team, and then of course our marketing geniuses going to work. So it's been really good. And yes, we have been taking a lot of that content, that best in class content that we're creating, and giving it to our partners. Oftentimes it hits them a little bit later and they need to do some adjustments for their market, either because of translation, possible practice, different funnels it needs to go through before it reaches their audience, but they are getting it, and it's being very well received. So especially stuff like the virtual coaching, the US market, Canada, Australia, there's certain markets that have embraced virtual training and have been doing it for a while. Other markets, it was not existent. So of course there's going to be a lag. There's going to be, a delay. Like if you're, traveling to South America and you're hearing, Backstreet Boys on the radio, 20-year-old song maybe now. I don't know. I can't do the math in my head that fast, but it's sometimes there's a delay. But our partners, I mean, out of those 45 countries, we have around 20 partners that make up those 45 countries. I'm so proud of them. They're doing everything they can to embrace the challenges, make adjustments where there was no virtual medium, where there wasn't anything outside of live. That's all they were doing. And now they're making adjustments. And I'm very, very proud of those people.
Well, you should be. And I had the chance to go and meet several of the people bringing that content live. We went to first place we stopped together was Hong Kong. And then we went into Shanghai. And we worked with some partners there to basically take the coaches that were going to be producing the content and delivering it live, like a live workshop, and had them go through a course, let them learn a little bit about it, how we do it, what it is that we do. I'm gonna shout those guys out. They are sticklers. They are sticklers. You say something and they're like, wait, can you tell me? Because in the book on page 147, it is in this graph on this chart, and and they will tell you exactly where it is. So you have to be careful. If you say an opinion, then you need to cover up that NASM sign and be like, oh, this is Rick talking right now, and just try to explain it. Because if you don't, they will search the text. I mean, they are into it. They love it. They live it. They breathe it. They want to know more. And so what we did is we took that stuff from the text and say, okay, how do we make that practical application? How do we teach it? How do we turn it live? And then we had them teach it back to us. Yep. And at one point we were having them do it in their own language. And what's interesting is that when you teach communication skills, what you do is you lay out things to follow. And people would follow those things as best as they could. But as soon as they start talking, many of the things in communication skills that you talk about go away and you just go on an autopilot. Yeah. And it doesn't matter what language you're speaking. There is an iteration of let me see, hold on. So all these kind of filler words, and you can catch it. You don't have to know the language, and feeding that back and having those conversations and allowing the peers to have that conversation back. I think we sharpened the sword of a lot of people who were there ready to go into teaching and saying it's not just about do you know the information, but how well can you deliver that information? And that speaks a ton to what you said earlier, which I think we have the best instructor team on the planet. And the reason we do is that we spend so much time not just on the content, but on the delivery of the content. Solid work, man.
Yep. And you're absolutely right. The level of fitness nerd that I think even you and I are, those guys, in our partnership communities, even more so. And
I think so.
they really do want to wow you guys, because you guys are you are their role models. They see you in the videos, they hear stories about you, they read your bios, and you guys showing up. I mean, it's like the hero's welcome, So they come prepared. They want to represent the name. They want to show you that they're ready, and it is really cool to see. The teach back methodology that Dr. Prentice Rhodes and the awesome product team came up with. I really like that as well, because it's one thing to observe, it's another thing to teach, it's another thing to teach and then have those people teach it back to you. I think it solidifies it in a certain way. I think it makes it fun. I think trainers by nature are very competitive. So it's very, very high yielding in terms of results when we follow that format. And when we do get back to doing those live trainings again with the partners, I think we're going to, with tiny tweaks, we're going to continue to, follow that methodology.
Oh, it's brilliant. That's brilliant. Yeah. Well, we did it with our instructor team here in the States too. So, yeah. And like any programs, one of the things I appreciate about NASM so much is even in our CPT text or our CES, we are always looking to update and refine and, let's use best practices and let's incorporate some of the research and then provide a better course next time. Yeah. And so that's what I think we'll continue to do, and I'm looking forward to doing that. Let me ask a question about training. I know that you are quite a proficient jiu-jitsu practitioner. So how long are you away from being able to start rolling with people and is it gonna be face mask rolling at first? How does that work?
I think they're going to design some type of apparatus, like almost like an helmet. I don't know, man. It's one of those things. Arizona, and I know every state's different. Your beloved state of New York, I know is going through some hard times. Arizona, I mean, talk about 2 months ago, about 2 months ago, we thought man, for whatever reason, we're impervious. We could COVID doesn't come here. And, people are doing things like nightclubs are open. They're showing on national news, seen from Scottsdale, Arizona last night. Yeah. Facepalm, total facepalm. And I think, it was a little bit cavalier. I did do some training when the gym opened back up. We took a lot of precautions. People were very anxious to get back to training. And I think we kind of beat each other up a little bit, kind of took the 2 months that we were off and just smashed each other into the ground. So it's, but Dan, that with the governor's order just a few days ago, gyms have to shut down. And obviously you can't socially distance responsibly in jiu-jitsu, unfortunately. So it's one of those things. It is a passion. It's been something I've still trained. I've been doing functional training with kettlebells. I've been obviously following NASM OPT protocol at home in my own personal workouts. You do what you can with what you have, but been reading a lot of books, jiu-jitsu books, self-help books, history books, anthropology, science, just whatever, because it's like nights where I'd normally go to practice, I'm just reading now. So I think as long as you're filling that, that healthy routine that you had before with something else that's healthy, not just, hey, go to the liquor store, you're well, might as well just drink, doing something productive. It's still you're still able to keep that routine, because now when jiu-jitsu does come back, I'll of course start going training again. I'm still gonna read, I might read 6 books a year normally. I think I'm at 26 books now, because
wow.
So it's you're gonna have to replace it with your true love at some point. And I am excited to go back to jiu-jitsu when it opens up big time.
Yeah, I think I'm like you, but with Netflix, I maybe watch 6 episodes of something a year, and
Yeah.
now I'm sure I'm at 600. So,
You finished
uh,
Netflix. Netflix is it's complete. Yeah.
yeah, right. So I'm trying. I've actually the first 2 months was a wonderful like streaming. Let me just watch stuff, and now I'm actually bored being entertained by watching things. Like I'm watching a series right now that I really enjoy, and I'm like, I just don't want to watch it. I just don't want
Yeah.
to watch it. Now I'll foam roll and I'll listen to a podcast and I'll stretch. And used to I'd it was in my daily routine, my morning routine. I wake up in the morning and I'd foam roll and I'd stretch, and then I would start putting up like a streaming show or something, and I just watch something while I was doing it. Now it's like I hardly ever do that. I'm listening to a podcast. I'm trying to learn something. I'm
Yeah.
trying to see if I can refine anything that I say as I'm talking. I'm like, man, that's a good idea. Let me see if I can bring that up at some point
Yeah.
on this show. It's been fun, but not. It's
Yeah.
been scary. It's been challenging. There are a lot of things that are facing fitness industries. I mean, people in general. There are tragedies that have happened, and I want to acknowledge that. And what I don't want to do is limit how important it is that people do the best they can
Yeah.
at not pretending like it's not real, that it's not happening. It is real. It is happening. I lost a beloved friend to COVID, so I don't want to downplay any of it. But
Sure.
what I do want to do is talk about the challenges that we're all facing right now, and as we're looking at, maybe we can get back to work, and we're opening in New York City. We're opening in phase 3
Yeah.
on July 6th. So phase 3, gyms will open on phase 4. And then last week, we found out that gyms will now open on phase 5. There was never a phase 5. There was always phase 4, but they just pushed gyms back another 2 weeks. And that's going to be a struggle. I mean, think about it. It's not just gyms. I think about the martial arts studios, jujitsu studios, the fitness facilities, the group fitness locations, big companies that are owned by large corporate entities. They're going to be okay. Like
Yeah.
they can take that, they can take the loss, and then they can dust their knees off and get right back up and start running again. I'm really worried about what the future of fitness and all of these wonderful boutique fitness facilities that have opened, the franchise facilities that are out there where people have spent their entire egg onto putting something together that they hope they can build and then retire with. And
Yeah.
that's a concern right now. That's a real thing. When we try to make the best of everything, and people are out there becoming entrepreneurs and building businesses, NASM benefits from it too.
Yeah.
So NASM wants that for everybody. This market is valuable, but it is taken a absolute beating. I mentioned on my social and early on this phone call, I got my little plaque and my little eviction notice on one of my gym facilities. So I'm immediately reaching out. Let me talk to some attorneys. Let's talk to the landlord. Let's see if we can work some things out. But these challenges are real, man. And the reason that they're real is because there is a real thing going on that we still need to find a balance, right? There's a virus that's very dangerous and highly contagious, and we still need to make a living and make money. So where does that balance come from? I don't know.
Yeah, that's the big question. I mean, the tragedy and loss of life, obviously that's, there's nothing that you can compare to that. But, there's tragedies and people losing everything they've worked for and the businesses that they're passionate about and give them meaning and help them support their families. Those are tragedies too. It's really interesting. I don't know if you saw, but a couple of gyms here in Arizona sued the governor for shutting down gyms as one of the 3 types of businesses that were that were to close. And I really do try to look at both sides of the argument. And I think this just comes from my work in international kind, being diplomatic. There's of course always going to be friction here, or maybe something happens, different cultures, different considerations. So I always try to have my diplomat hat on. And it's, if you stay at home and let the virus die, people suffer. If you go out and too soon, society starts again too soon, people suffer. It's really kind of a pick your poison. So it's not like somebody's right and somebody's wrong. The answer, as it usually is likely somewhere in the middle. I think we're learning more about this virus. I've learned more about viruses and more about COVID than I would have expected. At the beginning.
Through one of your 60 books that you read.
Oh, geez. And I try to, because this thing's become politicized. It really has. Mm-hmm. And I do my best to take in information that is as unbiased as possible, because we're making really important business decisions, even within NASM, our own core business, international expansion.
Sure.
You can only use the data that's available to you. But you know this and I know this in studying science, exercise science. If the study is tainted, if the information is disrupted or is not useful, you don't have a lot to go off of. You can only really go off of that data, that empirical data that's in front of you. So it's tough, man. I get it. People are suffering at home. They want to be out. They're losing their businesses. Gyms, should be a place where not just physically, but mentally you're going to clear your head, to get the important, the important neurotransmitters going and different hormones in the body. It's critical. Like we're built for that. So I get that argument, but also people touching stuff, being around each other in the gym. So we got to learn more about this thing. I think we as leaders in the community, we need to kind of continue to be kind of the voice of reason and bringing people together. Once things are polarized and communication stops, I think that's when the extremists really kind of control it, and we're not going to be solutions oriented. So I think being solutions oriented, it's important.
Well said. The fact that you said you listen to both sides, that sounds crazy. Man. Wow. Nobody seems to be doing that. That's incredible. And what it ends up doing when you're left with listening to both sides, what oftentimes happens is you say, I don't know what the right answer is, which is why polarization happens. Somebody wants to take action one way or the other, right? When you're left with listening to both sides, you are kind of stuck in the middle saying, I don't know, because we don't know. There's no evidence. We don't understand enough. There's not enough data to make a conclusive decision. So we make any decision, and it's usually the one that we want to make. That's the gut decision. I want this to be the answer, so that must be the right decision. We don't know what the right decision is. We don't.
Right. Seek first to understand. One of my mentors always says that, and I really like it. If we can make decisions, even if it's not the right decision, with the best of intent, having laid out the best information in front of us, we can honestly pivot and say, hey, we tried that, we did everything we could, it's okay. And it is a lot of it's a lot of conjecturing, it's a lot of assumptions. I think if people just look through the lens of good intent, like that person that you're so angry at for doing this, they're probably not an evil person that's nefariously trying to destroy the world. They most likely have good intent. If that person also flips the lens and looks back at their neighbor who thinks this way, it at least starts with common ground that, hey, look, none of us have the right solution yet, obviously. Let's start there. Let's know that, we're all in this together. We want to get through it. We want to find the right thing. And, I've been seeing a little bit of that, especially in the fitness community. I think you do have a lot of people that are passionate and mean well. And there's been some really meaningful conversations coming out of the fitness community. So I'm proud of that.
Yeah, really, you should be. I am too.
Yeah.
I'm very pleased to see what's going on. And I want to do this just as an example. I know for a fact, NASM, when it came to education, used to just put out content, and they would say, this is what we believe you should know. And then NASM kind of took on this, what you're talking about, try first to understand. And they said, why don't we find out what people want to know? Yeah. And then we can deliver content around what they want to know with the science, put it together and say, hey, you said that this is something you're interested in. Let's deliver this. Trying first to understand, what happened is that NASM made a really strong turn towards profitability when they started asking questions and providing answers based off of what people wanted to know. So trying to understand as a business was very helpful. As a society, I think will be very helpful. As individuals, it's going to be very helpful. It's the right move. Right.
Yeah, and we could do anything, we really can, but we can't do everything. So if we're going to fill the funnel with stuff that we want to do, to your point, let's do it the right way. Let's get the community involved, the people that really matter, and hats off to Mike Fantagrassi and his team for enabling that exercise and just creating killer products. I mean, they have been bringing in such good subject matter experts, trainers that are in the trenches that actually understand what the client, what their needs and wants are, different demands of the industry. So it's been so cool to see that process. And you're absolutely right. We really do, for the trainers that are listening, we truly do everything we can to give you guys something that you can use meaningful with your clients, and that's fun and rewarding in the process. So we're seeing that a lot.
That's awesome. Well, all right. So as we start to wind down our conversation, I want to ask a couple more questions. The first one is, as this kind of growth and expansion has taken place, and you've been spearheading this internationally, where we are. Where are we going to be? Let's say, without COVID being something that is complicating, what are the plans? What are the expectations? Or if you can answer with COVID, then let's do that too. But let's have a conversation on where we are and what the expectation is going forward for the next few years.
It goes back to a point that you brought up, Rick. We have some very good ideas about what we want to do. I think we're doing a great job of listening to our partners who are actually in the trenches in these developing territories, listening to what they have to say. But we have a couple of different plans, right? Because we don't have all the information yet. We don't know exactly what's going to happen with COVID. How soon can we go back to live trading? So there's a lot of comfort and there's a lot of confidence that comes in saying, I don't know. Yeah. Do we have some really good options? Yes, I feel very, very confident in that. Do I know exactly which of those are going to be exercised based on all the little dependencies that happen? Man, if I could get out a crystal ball and be able to tell you that, I'd probably be playing the lottery or playing sports bets or something like that. So it's really important to know that we have a plan. We're talking to our partners. Obviously, Europe and Asia have just been growing exponentially, even despite COVID. So there's a lot of interest. We don't have a very strong, meaningful penetration into Central and South America just yet. I would like to see that start to change. Of course, there's a lot of developing countries there. There's some great trainers. I have some friends in Central and South America that are doing really, really big things. Specifically in Brazil is going to be a massive, massive market. We're not there in a meaningful way yet. I'd love to be there. So there's some cool things that I think are in the works, and they're going to be coming. It's just it's being informed, it's staying patient, and it's being sure that we are unapologetically vetting every single option to make sure it's in the best interest of our organization and the people that we're going there to serve. Because it goes back to the point, we can do anything, but we can't do everything. Even NASM, it's a big organization with lots of resources and great people. Resources are still finite to some point. We need to be really, really smart and calculated with what we're doing.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I'll shout out a few people on my international travels that I was able to meet. So Kevin Rushton, James Hosang. I just see there's some of the best people on the planet, just salt of the earth.
Yep.
I've loved my opportunity meeting some of our international partners, and I hope someday, Nathan, wink, to be back out there once we're not worried so much about COVID, and see them again and meet some more of our international partners, and get out there and start spreading the word again, and start helping to develop some of these really incredible quality individuals that are out there, doing the spreading of NASM and our content in those areas.
Yep. And I'll save you this. It's not a if, it's a when, for sure.
Good.
It's so important. I mean, you see the value, I see the value, what it does for our organization to put boots on the ground and actually have the conversations, be in the meetings, be a part of the seminars, which, one of my favorite ever was when you and Andy Hanley came along to South Korea. What a fun event. I mean, you guys killed it. Like the way we set it up, we did, like a little international Optima. That was so fun, and it was really rewarding. Kevin is always such an incredible host. Does such a great job developing, a lot of Southeast Asian countries. We're gonna be in a really nice spot if we continue down this trend. I think it's supporting those in time, that are really hurting, just kind of taking care of the base level, making sure that, our partners that some of them are just hanging on, and
Yeah.
because different areas are different, differently affected. Different trainers have different needs, but setting ourselves up for future success. And we're certainly doing that. And I'm really proud of the efforts that we've been making here at NASM. It's been great.
Well, there's been some expansion in certain ways. I had the opportunity to do a virtual conference in Indonesia for representing NASM. These things are, you talk about evolution, right? You talk about this changing concept that, just recently Camp Gladiator, which is not international, but having the opportunity to do that virtually, is that expanding? Are you seeing this more and more internationally?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's going to be just about every conference that would be going on in a meaningful way live has had to pivot to virtual. Well, I should say one of two things. They're either canceling and doubling down in 2021, or they're making it virtual. So a lot of them are doing more of that latter, where they still want to be able to bring people together. I mean, hey, look, nothing would be more fun to be sharing a beer with you, slapping you on the back, being in person. But if we can't have that, we at least have this. Digital is something that's not in real time. You're still learning, you're seeing a face, but actually being able to laugh together, to connect, to still have, this. And that's something that, comes out in a lot of these virtual events. It's important. So I do hope that a lot of those industry leaders that are on the front lines doing live events, they continue to do those virtual events, like the one, that you're part of, for sure.
Yeah, thank you. That was awesome. And let's just do this. Greg, you got a really nice shout out earlier from Nate. So, give you the opportunity as we're starting to close up, and see if you have any questions or comments for Nate before we wrap.
No, I'm just going to hire you as my agent, Nate, after hearing that. I'm going to need that. So if you're looking for a second career in representing people, at least with our management, I will be turning to you for that. But what I actually am interested, and we haven't had a whole lot of opportunity to talk about this, Nate, but what has been the most eye-opening thing for you being part of the international team and traveling overseas in terms of fitness, things that you may not see here in the U.S., but that you're seeing in the international market?
Yeah. Well, first off, it brings me joy to be your hype guy, Greg. I met every word of the team. Absolutely killing it. I get so many messages from friends that I'm linked to on Instagram and Facebook that are just constantly throwing praise our way for the stuff we're putting out. So great job on that. Okay. And I am very, very fortunate. I have a unique perspective within the organization, because I have been to a couple dozen different countries now. I've gotten to see how they operate. what they're doing, taking our content, taking our blueprint of success and implementing it. And I think if there's one resounding theme that I continue to go back to, probably, I feel like this light bulb turned on probably sometime in 2019. People are different everywhere, different customs, different ways of looking at things, different diets, so many different things. But when you put your hands up like this and you squat down and do the overhead squat assessment, the normal dysfunctions that happen are still pretty much the same everywhere.
Interesting.
And that's the piece of humanity that I think I really wish every fitness professional got to see. People wear this, this NASM logo in a lot of different places. There's a lot of people out there that are in this industry for the right reason, to help their clients. And it doesn't change with your time zone. It doesn't change with your company's border, politics, policies, religion, way of life. And for that reason, I've always been proud of this organization. I've always been proud to be a part of it. But that very thing was probably the biggest mind paradigm shift that I've ever had, and that I'm thankful for.
Wow, man, that was awesome. Did that answer your question, Greg?
It did. So fitness is our common language. I like that, and appreciate the perspective, my friend.
Here's a PR guy. Look at that tagline. That's awesome. Fitness is the common language and currency. It's a common currency.
This stuff just comes from me. I can't help it, Nate. So.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Gentlemen, well, I appreciate that. Nate, that was incredible. It was deep. I appreciate those final comments as we're starting to wrap up. And as we do that, if people have any questions, they want to reach out to you directly, what's the best way for them to do it? How can they follow you on social, that stuff?
Yeah, feel free to shoot me a message. I'm connected to a lot of you guys on Instagram. My handle's kind of long. It's my full name, Nathan James Hyland. Hy is in Yankee, Land. Nathan James Hyland. Feel free to shoot me a message. I do post pictures of my travels and new stuff that's developing with NASM. I stay in touch with a lot of people that way. So yeah.
Excellent. All right, man. Well, I'll be reaching out to you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being on the show and kind of going through an overview of what the international approach for NASM has been and what it looks like. This has been great for me to learn from you on this. Big shout out to you. And just so you know, going forward, we will not be doing an episode on Monday, July 6th. It's an extended weekend for us, so that episode will not be there. I look forward to seeing you on the following Friday. If you can make it next Friday, we will be back at it. Thank you so much. This has been the NASM CPT Podcast.